recent lawsuit filed against Nestle Purina Pet Care Company is claiming that one of the company's most popular dog food brands contains toxins that are poisoning and even killing people's pets. The lawsuit, filed in California federal court earlier this month by pet owner Frank Lucido, alleges that thousands of dogs have become ill or died as a result of eating Beneful Dry kibble dog food. My guest is his attorney, Jeffrey Cheragino. He is with the firm Ram, Olson, Cheragino, and Kopczynski in San Francisco. Jeffrey, it's a pleasure. Thanks for talking with us today. So, what happened to Frank's pets here?
Thanks, Scott, and again, thanks for paying attention to this story and having us on. We appreciate it. And I'm going to give you a little backdrop to the sort of history of this and why this process that you and I are going through, this particular interview, is important to Frank. Frank came to us, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, and he had 3 pets. And what made it a little bit different is that his 3 pets were located in 3 different locations, right? So we didn't have sort of a singular location. And the one common between the pets was they're fed Beneful. All 3 pets, and he recently put them on Beneful. All 3 pets got sick. Well, 1 died, 2 were very close to death. And the failure was rapid. The bulldog died, and it was a 5-year-old. I think the other one was 7 or 9. He's got loads of meds for his dogs right now. So when he came to us, we looked at it and thought, well, it's not uncommon, for dogs. Obviously, dogs die, people die. That happens. Dogs get sick as we do. And what struck us was the fact that there was 3 a switch to dog food and different locations, which sort of eliminates at least some of the environmental sort of causation factors that you might think of, like maybe rat poison or a nasty neighbor. So what we did is we went online and began to do some research and talk to some vets and found that Frank's situation was far from unique. And in fact, there were thousands of pet owners with similar stories, and some even more profoundly tragic than Frank's was. For example, one lady lost both dogs in a matter of weeks after switching to Beneful. So after talking with vets and looking at the sort of increasing number of social media comments and websites and talking to some of the individuals involved, we reached the conclusion that there's something going on. That the motivating factor for Frank was really to get this out, get this word out, and have people at least consider whether this is the appropriate food for their animal and consult with their vet.
Jeffrey, Purina obviously is well known as a legacy pet food manufacturer. How do toxins like this, and what kind of toxins are they, get into the dog food?
Well, here's what we think, and I will preface this by saying, getting the science right is very important. We think the mycotoxins come in through grain. I mean, that's where they're essentially, that's the petri dish for the mycotoxins. And the mycotoxins can cause substantial injury to dogs, particularly renal failure. A lot of them have bleeding, internal bleeding. How it gets into it, and given Purina's, and you're right, they have a long history of being a responsible pet food manufacturer. How these toxins get into it is the mystery. But there's clearly substantial numbers which says something is going on, and we are engaged in hiring toxicologists and obviously testing samples of dog food from a lot of the victims all over the country. And it's in its infancy, but we're hoping to find an answer and maybe at some point do so in conjunction with Purina and see if we can't make sure that doesn't happen again.
Do you think that these problems these pet owners have been having are isolated cases within the Beneful brand? I mean, or is it in every bag out there, do you think?
That's a really good question. The numbers are significant, and we're talking at least thousands, right? And just this morning, as you can imagine, we're getting inundated at a rate of 200 to 300 emails almost every hour. So they're coming in faster than we can respond. And they're all over the country. So I don't really know the answer to whether it's a bad batch, because it seems to be spread out over time. So it's really some time, differentials between sick. We have dogs getting sick in 2013, dogs getting sick now, dogs getting sick in 2014. And yet there's also true that Purina serves millions of dogs every day. So I don't think there's a quick and easy answer to your question, but I sure hope we're going to find it.
Do you know where Purina gets the grain that they use for this product?
That's an excellent question. Purina says that they get it locally, in other words, U.S. grown. If you look at a bag of Beneful, and in the fine print, which is where all the ingredients reside for all of our foods for that matter, you'll find that the first, say, 5 out of 7 ingredients are some form of grain. And it could be corn, there was rice involved. So the vast majority of ingredients in Beneful are in fact grain products. The actual source have some information only from Purina's website that they are sourced locally. But we know historically, years ago, like we were involved in menu food pets case, where the grain was sourced from China and other overseas locations, and the contamination, it was believed to have occurred, from that source. So as discovery progresses, we'll be able to figure out the answer to your question.
Because grain is such a common ingredient in all dog foods, is Purina the only manufacturer that seems to be having this problem at the moment?
From what we can tell, yes.
Okay. Has there been any kind of recall of the product in any way?
None that I'm aware of.
So what has Purina actually said about this? And have they done any research themselves, do you think?
Oh, well, I know a little bit. I have tidbits of information for you, Scott, that come from a couple of pronouncements by Purina. First, there was the official pronouncement relative to the Daily Beef story, which is what you'd expect. Our products are carefully scrutinized, they're carefully made, and everything is great. There was a response by Purina in 2013 that we found on a website where they said there was a slew of dogs that were having similar injuries, and they said they tested the product and everything was great. So those are the sorts of things that we're seeing. What we have heard, and this is, again, not entirely confirmed, but we have heard from one source that Purina is basically offering dollars in a gag order in exchange for a gag order. And we're hoping to get those documents perhaps in the next, maybe even already be on the email as we're talking, but someone that Frank knows, his dog was also impacted by Purina, Beneful, called Purina, and apparently Purina is offering some dollars in exchange for full, non-disclosure gag order. So there's something going on out there, and whether that's a one-off or a consistent pattern by Purina to sort of keep this below the radar, we're going to find out.
Last couple of questions. Do you know that the problem develops after repeated use, or does it happen with as little as one use of the product?
I have seen, anecdotally again, one use, and repeated use, right? Where the dog's been on it for 2 months, started to have problems, or the dog was just given Purina, and then the day later started to have problems. Part of the assembling of this information is really sort of the epidemiology component of it, right? Where just like we would in a human disease or trying to find disease patterns or contamination patterns, you develop the epidemiology by getting these anecdotal information. You start to put down things just like you asked, right? Is it 2 months, 1 month, 6 months, a year? And you start to hopefully develop a picture. Is it big dogs, small dogs, old dogs? And what are the symptoms? And the way we do that, just like you would in any epidemiological study, is to gather as much information as you can and start to see the patterns. And that's what we're going to do, and that's why we're bringing in some consultants to know a heck of a lot more about this than we do.
And so far, what are the symptoms that you are seeing?
A lot of internal bleeding seems to be a common problem, and significant bleeding. Internal bleeding, then obviously manifests itself at some point externally. Lethargic behavior, hair loss, liver failure, kidney failure. We have one woman I spoke to whose her dog was given a complete clean bill of health, right? It had gone to the vet, blood test, the whole 9 yards. And then 2 weeks later, she fed the dog Benefil. And within a day, the dog developed internal bleeding, all of the symptoms I just said, and ended up with a severe pancreatitis, which is costing this woman thousands of dollars every year to give her once healthy dog medicine. So we're hearing these anecdotal stories, and we're trying to put them into something that kind of paints the picture and enables us to really be able to focus in on what's going on, and that's what we hope to be able to do.
Finally, with regards to damages, how do the courts look at the loss of a pet? How do they, quantify the value of that and what's associated with that?
Well, that's a long question. So I'll give you the short, sort of non-legal, semi-legal answer. In years past, courts have viewed pets as very much as chattel, right? I mean, they're just, whatever that value is, you go down to the store, you get another dog. Maybe you have a purebred dog, its value is $2,000, $3,000. So the courts have not placed sort of the human attachment value to a pet. But we all know, all of us who own dogs, and I have dogs and have dogs my entire life, we know that the dog is not something replaceable like a shirt or a pair of shoes. And I think some of the courts and some of the jurisdictions have begun to recognize the actual impact and value that pets have in our lives. So it's going to be interesting to see, in this case, how this judge will view the law and whether they'll take into account that a dog isn't just a pair of shoes.
All right, Jeffrey, thank you so much. My guest has been attorney Jeffrey Cheragino in San Francisco. He's with the firm Ram, Olson, Cheragino, and Kempczinski. And you're watching the Legal Broadcast Network.